everybody. Day 3. We've all survived this long, and it's great to see such a huge crowd in here this morning. Hope you're all enjoying the Web Summit. Thanks a million to Estee and Simon for being here. Really looking forward to chatting with you because we've been talking so much about social media and how it's impacted on the fashion industry and on modelling. So we'll hopefully share some really good insights with you today. So Estee, let's start with you because loads of people know you around the world. You're followed by over 1 million people on YouTube, Instagram, you've got your Twitter page, your Facebook. So can you give us a little sense of how you use your channel?
Is this on? Is my mic on?
We're having a little bit of a technical difficulty. Estee's microphone, is it on now?
Am I on? Okay, here we go. Yes, so I started my channel when I first moved from Canada to England, and it was just kind of a hobby for me, and I just found it as a way to kind of get some friends, really. So I wasn't really thinking it was ever going to be a career. I started putting things online, meeting new people, and it just kind of grew from there.
But I want to ask you, when you were a little girl, and when you're asked what do you want to be when you grow up, if someone had said to you, well, you're going to be a worldwide known vlogger on YouTube, what would you have thought of that?
Well, I wouldn't even know what YouTube was. That's the crazy thing about it. And I mean, I was even late to the YouTube game when my boyfriend was like, oh, do you watch this YouTube video? I knew what it was, but I didn't understand the community that's behind YouTube and creating digital content. So I was actually a late bloomer as far as that goes. But yeah, no, I did not think I would be a YouTuber as a career.
So what do you like to do in your channel? What's your favorite way of using it, and how do you reach out to the community? Because YouTube is very much about having a community, feeling like people know you and that you know them.
Yeah, so I'm kind of at an interesting time right now on my channel because I started when I just turned 20 and I just turned 25 recently. So there's been a 5-year kind of progression there of my life, and my viewers have really, I feel like they've kind of grown up with me and they've seen me go through a lot of personal changes and just confidence changes and everything. All of that, they've witnessed it on the internet. So I'm kind of going through a bit of a rebirth, I would say, on my channel.
Absolutely.
Where I've just kind of, I'm trying to make it really represent who I am and a little bit more of the mature side and more lifestyle things. I do beauty, I do fashion, and I just like to have fun, have a laugh.
People obviously really enjoy that as well. Simon, you have been working in the fashion industry for a few years, let's say.
Far too long, yeah.
So you've seen huge changes, haven't you?
Absolutely.
How has social media impacted the way in which your industry works now? Because models are using platforms like Instagram to build up their own brand identity and to build partnerships with other brands.
They absolutely are, and it's changed them enormously because originally only a very few models actually made it into the public consciousness. Either they were the very few superstars of the industry, or they married a rock star, or something amazing happened in their life to grab the media attention. But now, brands are beginning to look to models to say, hang on a second, who's got the biggest following? We'd like to work with them. So it really has turned around.
Who's doing it well, and what is the appeal? How does someone know what to do on Instagram when they want to build their modeling career?
I think a lot of people have kind of worked it out as they go along. They started out young, but if they have, in Instagram particularly, you do have to take good images. We do encourage people to use Instagram. We encourage them to use it wisely and responsibly, partly because they've got to remember that's their life on record, partly also if they're doing it for a brand or at a shoot, they've got to be sure that that is information that the brand is happy going out into the public domain. But really, the ones who were good at it were honest, they were interesting, and they created good imagery. And I think a lot of people looked to them and said, a lot of young kids, and said, she's a role model for me. I like what she does. I'm going to follow her.
Estee, you must need to have a really strong sense of yourself and your own identity when you're on social media because, you're constantly reinventing yourself. You're evolving as a person in the real world, let alone in digital, when you've so many other external influences. Has that ever been, an obstacle or a challenge for you?
I think, in some ways, I think, oh, why can't I just tweet this really controversial opinion right now? But you have to be smart about what you post, obviously, and you do have to have a really great sense of self. And know who you are and what you're trying to represent. And I am a person, but at the end of the day, you almost have to see it as a brand in a sense, because you have to portray yourself as you want. You know, what do you want people to think of when they hear your name? And a lot of thought goes into it. So it is my life. Obviously, it's me. But you do have to think about these things, which is a little bit weird because I'm just living my life day to day. So,
Simon, I want to bring up this photograph because in many ways this encapsulates so much change in the industry, doesn't it?
I think that's right. It's from the front row of a Burberry show, and originally, and still technically, a fashion show is a B2B event. It is for a designer to showcase their upcoming designs to the retailer base, to the editors of the magazines, to the buyers from the department stores, and you can't buy tickets to it. And it used to be a closed thing. It was just, as I say, a B2B event. Burberry, of all brands, have been the leaders in embracing social media, using it to their advantage, and they turned their show into a spectacle. They, for several years now, live stream it. It's the only show that actually starts on time because they know they've got millions of people in China who've stayed up late into the night waiting to view the live stream. And the front row itself has become a really big thing to be on. And from our point of view, we see Burberry communicating on lots of different levels at that one show. We see it as a trade event. We see it as an amazing social event, which then gets spread through social media. We also have models in the show, and Estee has been to the show, been invited to record the show and almost kind of report on it, sitting on the front row but going backstage, seeing what they do and giving an even richer view of the whole experience from her perspective.
So you have Kate Moss in that image there, and Cara Delevingne, who is obviously huge on social media. Her personality really comes across. Yeah. But when do you think was the moment that the penny dropped? You know what? Social media is really important to how we work now.
Yeah.
Was there a moment in time when you went,
well,
whoa?
I think, we were always amazed by Burberry. They were pushing the envelope the whole time, and we were running to keep up with what they were doing and try to understand it and the impact it would have on our talent and how they could respond to that. But of one moment that sticks in my mind, it was probably 4 or 5 years ago, and Kate was doing a launch of one of her collections at Topshop, and it was set in the front of their big store, 214 Oxford Street. And there were banks of paparazzi and photographers. The whole thing had been meticulously planned as a professional event, and Topshop did a fantastic job at that. But what actually happened when she kind of came out was that in the stationary traffic that was sort of crawling up Oxford Street at the time, a double-decker bus just stopped, and suddenly we saw all the windows just full of people filming it, taking pictures, and then doing it on social. And that wasn't planned by Topshop, but it just happened. And, at that moment, I kind of went, oh, this is something where, this is going to be really spread by the public, not by the industry.
So it's really evolved more since then, because now people know that they can harness a campaign around social media or a brand.
Yeah.
And Jordan Dunn, who Store Model Management represents, is one of the really good examples where she gives people quite a rich experience on her social feed, and she's one of the most followed in the world, isn't she?
Yeah, that's right. She's got a very varied life. She's a mum. She's had lots of challenges in her life. She shares a lot of that on her Instagram feed, and she's not afraid to say what she thinks. So I think there's a lot of young girls out there in particular who feel that they admire her, they want to follow her, and see what she does.
Estee, there's been so many news stories recently about people who are very big on social media and they decide that they just want to quit it altogether, and then you have reports of orchestrated campaigns and so on and so forth. So for someone like me as a journalist, it's often fodder for us to try and read between the lines. But is it really difficult using social media all of the time? I know you recently went on a digital detox, so that's why I want to ask you that.
Yeah, so I recently did a video called A Digital Detox, and I spent 48 of the longest hours of my life without the internet or even music, no TV. And that was an experience, especially as someone who is just obsessed with consuming content all the time. But, I can definitely understand the pressures of it. I experience it almost every day where you just you feel quite judged for everything you do, you know. But that being said, I've always just been really, I've always been confident in what I've been posting. I never feel like I cross any lines really, and I always know, oh, I don't really want to post this sort of stuff, and I always post something that's really true to the moment, and I try not to let social media kind of consume my life too much. So there's two sides to that coin, I think.
I think a lot of people will be wondering as well how you managed to successfully run your YouTube channel, but you also have so many other successful pages on other platforms as well, and you don't post the same thing on every platform. So can you share some insights, give us your secrets? How do you manage to do it all?
I mean, I had lunch with someone the other day, and she was like, how do you know what to post to Snapchat and Instagram and Twitter? Like, how do you know the difference? And honestly, it's just time. Like, I've been at this for 5 years. I know what's a good Instagram and that's like such a no-brainer for me. So I definitely understand.
It's like intuitive for you.
Yeah, it's an intuition, isn't it? What was the question again?
How you use different platforms. And the reason I ask you this is because, you know, you're really big on YouTube, but you've recently also rebranded yourself in many ways, because people might know Estee as Essie Button.
Yes. I've killed her.
Can you tell us about Essie Button first, for those who may not have heard of Essie Button?
So Essie Button is my alter ego, but she's gone now.
Why is she gone?
She's gone because it was a thing of the past, really. So when I started my channel, I called it Essie Button, and it was just a nickname because I wasn't thinking about my career. And you know, I was 19 when I created that, so it's just
Such a cute name, though, isn't it?
It's cute. My grandma calls me Essie, but you know, at the end of the day, no. So I had to kind of go through this thing where I was like, I don't actually feel connected to this name and this brand and what I've created for myself. So I've been going through this switch of just, you know, using my real name, Estee Lalonde, and just really trying to be who I am and just growing, you know, with all of my viewers.
And your real name is neutral, you know, your actual name is totally neutral, so no one can pick up any connotation of that.
Exactly.
So when you're thinking of which brands, you know, we spoke about the Burberry show.
Yeah.
What do you have in mind? You know, when someone comes to you and they say, "Oh, I've got this amazing dress, I really want you to wear it," or "Do you want to try this out?" Like, how does the decision-making process work for you?
I think a lot of it, like you said, it is intuition-based, and I think, does this feel right? Even if I have a little twinge of, could I post that? The answer is no.
Right.
The answer is always no. If I get a campaign that they're like, they really want you to do this, this, and this, and I think, it's kind of cute, but if there's a but, no. There's no way it's happening. And you have to keep that integrity or else the whole thing is pointless. Once you lose that, it's gone. Yeah. So hard to get it back.
So this is a question for both of you, who do you think is doing it really well? Obviously, Estee is doing it really well on social media, so that's a given. Who else is doing it really well?
I think looking at the whole of social media, you do have to go back to YouTubers, because it is by far the richest engagement with an audience.
Do you think it's the most realistic of everything? It's the less constructed?
I do, actually. I think that, you know, if you look at a classic, what you might even call an old school beauty video now on YouTube, the YouTuber she deconstructs. She takes all her makeup off. She stares straight to camera. The light's on her, and she says, "This is me. I'm going to put a look on, guys, and this is how I'm going to do it." So there's a sense of a kind of physical honesty as well as an emotional honesty that she has with her audience. And from that, the trust base that Estee's talking about grows and grows and grows. Now, you just can't have that level of engagement in something like Instagram. And so it really is, you know, Instagram is fantastic, and your Instagram is fantastic, but it's kind of like a sort of, they're additional, it's sort of almost like throwaway moments off the main strand of what you do, which is creating longer form, richer video with a much better communication. And there's much more follow-up as well, isn't there, to your channels?
I mean, it's really interesting because I'll post a really beautiful flat lay of something with all my favorite clothes or whatever.
I'm going to go to a screen grab of your channel.
All right.
It does look really lovely.
Thank you. But then I have two channels. On my lifestyle channel, you know, I'm on there with no makeup. I have zits. I swear, I even like waxed my mustache on that channel for like millions to see. It's horrible, isn't it?
Well, it is November, and yesterday I was interviewing the founder of Movember. So.
I should let it grow. But yeah, I mean, I just let it all hang out basically, and I think people really appreciate that because they're probably in their bathrooms doing the same thing, you know? So it's, I think that you have to have that connection, and there's different platforms for each thing. I'm not going to post a picture of me, like, doing whatever. Anyway.
So speaking of connections, everyone is always talking about this buzzword engagement. So, you know, people obviously love consuming the content that you post and that you share on your channel. But part of it is also having those conversations with people who are your community, more so than followers or audience. It's like almost like a group, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
a network. Is there a conversation or anything that you really remember that first time you had that level of connection?
I have it all the time. I mean, there's Gail over there who I met yesterday. Hey, girl. I mean,
Is she a fan?
yeah. Fan, whatever. I don't call them fans, but she's my girl. Well, she's been tweeting me, and then I met her yesterday, and she was like running around. She's like, "Oh, I'm so hungry." And I was like, "Oh God, take these chips. I stole them from the room." And you know, it's a different type of relationship. Like it's like you just meet a friend.
Do you feel like you know so many people, even if you haven't necessarily met them
it's like
face
you're
to
all
face?
kind of on the same level, and you just get each other, which is really, it's so nice. Everywhere I go in the world, if I'm just like going to get a burrito or something and I find someone in the lineup, they're just like, Estee! I was like, hey, what's up? What were you doing earlier today?
But you know, you've got a very open way about you, and so like you're very open to having conversations, and so you know, for many they project a certain image of themselves on social media, but it's this very much a constructed image, you know, constructed authenticity you could call it. But with you, it seems very genuine.
Thank you. I hope it is. I said at dinner last night, I can't lie. Like, I can't just create this perfect facade, because, I mean, the minute anyone meets me, they'll know that it's all been a lie.
I think there's something in looking at Instagram as having come out of a still image tradition of magazines and creating idealized imagery, and there's something of YouTube and online video of having come out of the tradition of reality TV, where people show it like it is. And so the two, whilst they're both called social media, aren't necessarily sort of from the same tradition and in the same manner. It's quite interesting watching this unfold.
And do you schedule your broadcasts, Estee? Because I know a lot of vloggers tend to schedule so that their fans or audience or community or their girls, as you call it, know when to tune in. So it's kind of almost counterintuitive to an internet platform where it's always on demand, but actually a lot of people schedule. So do you schedule?
First of all, I love that you call it a broadcast.
Broadcast, sorry.
So I've scheduled a couple videos whilst I'm away here, but you know, I have so many other projects on the go. If I didn't schedule things, they would never go up. So I do schedule things, but it is a lot of it is just like last minute sort of thing, and just put it up there and kind of hope for the best.
Simon, I have one more question, and we're running out of time very soon, but the question I have is about luxury brands. So, beautiful magazines, beautiful campaigns
tough.
online,
It's been
social
really
media.
tough for those brands, high-end fashion and luxury, to engage in social, and we as suppliers to them have definitely sort of sensed that unease a lot of them have had around it. Burberry is more of an exception. What we're feeling is that to a certain extent, a lot of them have kind of piggybacked the social media of the people who appear in their campaigns as a way of being able to engage without necessarily being, doing a lot of social themselves, or in some way worried that they might dilute the luxury experience that they offer in their advertising or in their stores or whatever. But we actually feel they shouldn't worry about it. Our view is that you're not replacing one with the other by getting into social media, and you're not trying to replicate the in-store experience. What you're actually doing in social media, it's the person who's been to the store, they've got their shopping bags, they've gone home, they're having a cup of tea with their friends around the kitchen table, and they're talking about the whole thing. That is what social media is for. So, I always say to luxury brands, go for it, but understand what it is, understand where it is in the conversation. You're actually just adding another layer of your engagement with the customer, and that's only for good.
And Estee, final question for you, if you can, in a sentence. What's next for you?
I don't know. Everything, I hope. I mean, that's the interesting thing, and I get this question all the time. I hope tons of things. Books, movies, who knows? I have no idea.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much to Estee Lalonde and Simon Chambers. Please give them a round of applause. Thanks so much. Brilliant.
Thanks, Estee.
Thank you.